When two respected businessmen with ties to English royalty fall victim to gem thieves, it reveals a crime with more facets than anyone imagined. New York City is a place where fortunes have been made and lost. Sometimes in an instant. On March 2nd, 1990, the front desk at New York's posh Halloran House Hotel received a frantic call for help.
Right up here.
Two guests in room 1207 had been tied up and robbed at gunpoint. Their assailant had fired his gun at them before ransacking the room safe. The victims, Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh, were devastated. As the proprietors of a fledgling gem business, they'd flown all the way from London to New York to sell their entire inventory. They had stored $4.5 million worth of rubies, sapphires, and emeralds in their room safe.
Millions of dollars, 1.8 million in there.
And now, those jewels were gone.
They didn't get the clothes, they got the jewels.
Are the police coming? Yes, they are. They're out. Thank you.
Just
Security? Okay.
The victims were shaken, but unhurt.
Detective, these two gentlemen right here was robbed earlier.
Science, NYPD. This policewoman will escort you out.
Gentlemen, step outside,
Guppy
please.
and Marsh were taken to the station, while the NYPD sealed the crime scene.
Detective, earlier I came in here approximately about 10 minutes ago. First gentleman was laid down, face down to the bed. Also, detective, a hood clerk did use
A pillow that appeared to have been used to muffle the sound of the shot lay next to the bed. Despite a thorough search of the crime scene, New York police came away empty-handed. The only fingerprints belonged to the victims. As Guppy and Marsh each told police, they had come to New York as entrepreneurs.
What was the first thing that happened? You were eating your sandwiches and then...
Well, the first thing that happened was...
Before leaving London, they'd made appointments with several jewelry buyers, hoping to sell their stones.
we talked on the telephone.
Yeah.
We have some jewels for you. We've traveled a long way.
I guess we need to take a look at them.
Yes.
Marvelous stones they are, rarest in India.
The buyers were respectful, and the meetings were friendly.
Well, that was a little higher.
But they weren't interested in the stones.
I tell you what, my partner will leave you our number.
After all their preparation, the budding entrepreneurs weren't having much luck.
Well, that's fine if you want to do that.
Okay.
But I'm just not interested right now.
All right, thank you, chap.
You're welcome.
Guppy told police that after their meetings, they returned to their hotel room, disappointed but not defeated.
I could try.
Make sure you order room service. All right, I tell you what.
Marsh put the gems in the room safe, while Guppy ordered sandwiches from room service.
A ham sandwich? You sure you don't want the tuna melt?
It only took a few minutes for their lunch to arrive.
Thank you.
After that, the pair kicked back to enjoy their meal and regroup. Just then, they heard another knock at the door. Two armed robbers burst inside.
On the bed! Down on the bed!
They tied up the terrified Englishman and insisted they hand over the key to the safe. When Marsh failed to respond, one of the robbers fired a gun. The shot barely missed his head.
Up! Now! I'm getting up.
The gunman once again demanded the keys to the safe. The frightened jewel merchants told the robbers where the key was. And the criminals helped themselves to the safe.
I am trying to tell you
Come on, man, let's get out of here.
Just as quickly as they had arrived, the robbers were gone.
Hey, it's cold car. I can't see the door. That's wrong. They're gone. Get up.
The stunned victims struggled to their feet and made their way to the phone to call the front desk.
In retrospect, do you think it was advisable?
Detective Raymond Burke investigated the case.
He knocked on the door and said it was the bell.
I call this a push-in robbery. And a push-in robbery is just that. You'll get pushed into your residence, in this case, a hotel room. 1990 was a high crime time for New York City. We had a lot of street robberies, including a lot of street robberies of jewel merchants. Never a push-in into a hotel room or to a residence of a jewel merchant. So that was very unusual.
Police theorized that Guppy and Marsh had been targeted. Someone must have known they had the gems and followed them back to their hotel. The NYPD created a sketch of one of the robbers from the victim's description. For the time being, it was all they had to go on.
These are what we call mugshot books. Probably heard of
The
them.
Englishmen were unable to identify their assailants from hundreds of mugshots.
Normally at the end of such an ordeal as going through all these photographs, you may have 20, 30 photographs sitting in front of you left on the side, and then we'll start doing a process of elimination. And, oh, it can't be him because he's got brown eyes, or it can't be him because he's got a scar and this guy didn't have a scar. We had nothing to look at. There was nobody there for either one of them.
Police began to suspect the thieves were not local. With $4.5 million in jewels at stake, maybe the crooks had followed them all the way from England. The NYPD asked Guppy and Marsh to stay in New York for a few more days in case the police got a break. But the initial investigation yielded few clues. Jeff Edwards covered the story in Britain for the Daily Mirror.
And after a couple of days, the police said to Guppy and Marsh, look, we're very sorry for what's happened to you. You come here as visiting businessmen coming to our city, and it's a terrible thing that's happened. We'll let you know you're free to go.
Days after the robbery, Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh returned home. They left behind $4.5 million in gems and their dream of becoming successful entrepreneurs. In New York, the search for the two men who stole $4.5 million from Benedict Marsh and Darius Guppy continued. NYPD detective Raymond Burke knew it would be a difficult job.
After they leave, you have the great sigh of relief that your complainants have finally left, the office anyway. You can go back to work, and in this case, that's going back over your crime scene photographs. That's looking at your evidence, and that's documenting the interviews that you've already done, and that's going out to figure out what other interviews still have to be done.
Police followed up on the only lead they had. In Brooklyn, a man had been shot to death when he was mistaken for a jewel merchant. Police thought Guppy and Marsh might have been victims of this same robber. If so, they were lucky to be alive.
sketch I want you to take a look at.
No one in the area recognized the man Guppy and Marsh described in the sketch. Police had very little to work with, but Burke remained confident the missing gems would lead them to the thieves.
This was going to break eventually. You don't steal $4.5 million and nobody hears about it again. Those gemstones had to be sold. They were going to pop up somewhere, or somebody was going to get arrested and he was going to immediately give up his buddy. And that's the way most cases break.
Detectives tried to force a break by visiting the gem buyers Marsh and Guppy met with prior to the robbery.
Probably heard about. Yep. This composite sketch
None
was put
recognized the
together
sketch of the
by a couple of
suspect,
victims.
but they did remember the victims.
See, the thing about this is it was
Most jewelers remembered them coming in, showing some stones, weren't interested. Nothing that stood out too much except for one jeweler who remembered them because they were British, and he didn't deal with many British merchants.
Back in England, Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh tried to get their company back on its feet. Although their entire inventory of gemstones had been stolen, they were insured through Lloyd's of London.
Mr. Schwartz said it was relatively important to call him back.
Normally, an insurance company won't pay out an insurance claim immediately. They want to see how the investigation progresses in case of fraud. In this case, Lloyd's told me they would pay out immediately to Guppy and Marsh because of who they were. I asked who they were, and they replied, well, Darius Guppy is very well known in England, socialite, and explained his great-grandfather was the explorer who discovered the fish, and that Marsh's father was an extremely wealthy man in Great Britain.
Darius's great-grandfather discovered the fish that now bears his family name. Darius Guppy was from one of England's finest families. Indeed, the society pages were invented for men like Guppy. He came from a respected British lineage and had more than a passing acquaintance with Lady Diana. In his days at Eton, he'd become good friends with her brother, Charles Spencer. Jeff Edwards covered the royals for the Daily Mirror.
He had been the best man to Earl Spencer, the brother of the Princess of Wales, at his wedding. So he'd come very much into the public limelight because of that event. He was one of the top 1% of British society. He was a true, almost a blue blood. He was somebody who you would have expected to be a captain of industry, a member of Parliament, possibly a member of the House of Lords.
But instead, Darius chose to make a name for himself and start a business with his good friend Benedict Marsh, a business that had nearly been destroyed by a New York robbery. Months later, things were starting to look up. Their insurers had paid their claim in record time, and their business was back in the black. Guppy and Marsh felt optimistic for the first time in months. They had no idea of the trouble that lay ahead. 1 year after Darius Guppy and his partner were robbed in a New York hotel room, the case would take a bizarre turn. In March 1991, Scotland Yard detectives arrested a man named Peter Risdon in an unrelated gem theft.
All right, then. Peter Risdon. With
Desperate to negotiate a reduced sentence, Risdon promised to tell them an interesting story.
What sort of men were they? You say they were businessmen?
So he said to the detectives, look, can I cut a deal here? If I tell you about something else that I know about, that I was involved in, something very serious, maybe I can get the charges dropped to lesser ones, or can get some help here. So the police said, well, what is it you want to tell us?
Risdon told police he ran a spy store that specialized in counter-surveillance equipment, miniature cameras, and custom-built cases to conceal documents.
in London.
What are you saying exactly, Mr. Risden?
In 1988, two men walked into his store,
Hey, boys.
Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh. At the time, India outlawed the importing of gold. The young blue bloods had devised a scheme to smuggle gold into India, and they needed false bottom cases to do it.
See the stuff inside? Give it a good pull. Like I said, the bottom will come out. We need a foot. This is all documents here. You see that right there?
The idea was to sell it, where I think on the black market it could achieve quite high sums.
What exactly is your role in this then, Risden?
Police were skeptical. Men like Risden ran in very different circles than the well-bred gem brokers.
In a hotel.
You broke into their room?
That's right, it was a fake robbery. We had to go in with a gun and tied them up. Gem.
Still, they looked more deeply into Guppy's background. When Guppy started his gem dealing business, he knew almost nothing about gems.
What you bought a gin earlier, sir? Yesterday, maybe?
His father had lost a great deal of money in a bad business deal, and Guppy was desperate to find a way to make his own fortune. He attracted investors, like Marsh's father, by using the government's business enterprise plan, which gave tax breaks to investors in high-risk businesses. And the volatile gem market was very high risk.
Having its certification from the government under the business enterprise scheme, they needed to show that the company was trading and trading successfully, and it wasn't at all. And as a result of that, they had a very large gap in their books.
To make up the gap, Marsh and Guppy used the profits from their gold smuggling enterprise to purchase gemstones. The extra cash ensured they always showed a profit. The gold scheme proved to be a profitable but temporary solution.
Hold on one second. Hold on just a second.
Rumors began to circulate India would soon allow gold to be imported legally.
Just open the market so anyone can bring it in. The market's just free to anyone. All right.
Guppy and Marsh panicked.
What's that all about?
Police learned that when the smuggling money dried up, they needed a new way to keep their company afloat. Risden claimed Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh hired him to help stage a gem heist in New York City.
All the money in the gold bars.
He claimed he had no idea they would defraud Lloyd's of London out of millions.
We're gonna get money for this because it's an insurance claim. We're gonna defraud the Lloyd's of London.
That's right. What you told us, we think...
Scotland Yard detectives contacted the NYPD to learn that the gemstone robbery remained unsolved.
The British police came on the scene and suggested to the NYPD that it wasn't a robbery at all and the whole thing was a fake, and the NYPD, had in fact been taken as suckers.
Intrigued, Detective Burke brought Risden to New York for further questioning.
So this was a setup from the whole beginning. Marsh Guppy knew about the entire thing. How much were you supposed to be cut in?
It was a flat fee, but obviously...
Risden simply knew too much to be faking his story.
Now, Scotland Yard, although having privy to some of the information on the case, hadn't actually gone through our case, our reports or our documents, even our photographs. And so prior to anyone giving Risden information, I sat him down and asked him exactly what happened, what he stated happened, and to describe things. And he went in complete detail, down to the color of the bedspreads in that room.
Do you think you could find this lake again?
I could try.
It seemed he was telling the truth.
I suppose.
Police now knew the details of the entire scheme. Not only was the robbery bogus, so were half the gems. Forged paperwork turned costume jewels into million-dollar gemstones. Based on the fraudulent appraisals and Guppy's family reputation, Lloyd's of London insured them heavily.
Yes, he is.
After arriving in New York, Guppy and Marsh met with the Fifth Avenue gem buyers.
All right.
I tell you what, my partner will leave you our number and where we're staying, and you can get in touch with us if you decide to change your mind.
Well, that's fine if you want to do that.
Okay.
But I'm just not in the market.
Then they headed to the hotel.
Come on.
Risden arrived around 2 p.m., right on
We're
schedule.
gonna call room service, right? So you go wait in the bathroom there.
After a lunch of sandwiches, they launched their elaborate plan. Risden could have simply tied them up and staged the robbery, but Guppy insisted that the whole charade be performed from start to finish.
Make sure you have the gun hidden.
They staged the room as a play, and they acted out the play, and it was a brilliant thing to do. The purpose of this was, in the event that the NYPD polygraphed them, put them on a lie detector test, that they could recall events actually as they happened, and the polygraph would say they were telling the truth. So they had Risden go through the motions of a robbery, knocking on the door saying room service, opening the door, forcing them on the beds, and firing the gun into the bed. They thought this would negate any polygraph test.
Shut up! Boy, you get up! Get up! Need a chauffeur around 5 o'clock.
When the men returned to London, they filed an insurance claim for nearly £2 million.
JFK, yes, JFK.
But the caper wasn't finished.
Here so we can get our business done.
The men had thrown away the fake gems. The real ones were still hidden in a safety deposit box in New York.
Need any help, just let me know. Thank you.
The day after they received the insurance check, they took the Concorde back to Manhattan, retrieved the gems, and returned to London the same day. They quickly sold the gems, increasing their take from the scam. It was the perfect crime. At least until Risden confessed. In July 1991, Guppy and Marsh were arrested for fraud in England.
It was a crime of only a half a dozen key moves. He knew that he could get false receipts for gemstones that were of a certain value, showing that they were worth a lot more. He was also certain that he was such a clever guy that by taking the stones first into the gems market in New York, he would create, if you like, an alibi for himself. He would create witnesses who would say, yes, he was here and those stones were here. Thus, we know the stones were in New York. And then he also thought that the police were foolish, that they were easy meat, that they would swallow any story he gave them.
On March 25, 1993, Darius Guppy and Benedict Marsh were sentenced to 5 years for fraud. Marsh was released in 1995 after serving only 2 years. Guppy also served a fraction of his sentence, spending 3 years in a minimum security prison. He was released in 1996. Peter Risden avoided prosecution by cooperating with the authorities.
These were two young men who were not professional criminals at all. They were ambitious young men who longed for adventure and on the wrong side of the tracks. So an awful lot of what they did was very well conceived and carried out.
So well conceived that out of the estimated $5 million the men smuggled and defrauded over an 18-month period, less than $1 million has ever been recovered.
I say these have made us a lot of money.